welcome back. So it has been so rainy and gloomy here. I mean, I love the rain as much as any other book lover because it gives you the perfect excuse to stay in, to read, to just forget all about adulting and just hole up with a good book. But I gotta be honest, it's getting old. I feel like we have had, every other day it's been rainy here. And for those who don't know, I am in Atlanta. No, I'm not in Seattle, but it certainly feels like I am. But that brings me to the point of this video, which is talking all about comfort reads, because since it has been so rainy and gloomy and just dismal, I have wanted nothing more than to just curl up with a good book, and not only a good book, but a comforting read, because I think I'm actually getting a little bit of seasonal affective disorder because I have been feeling down and glum, and I'm pretty sure it's because I'm not getting any sunshine. So when I'm feeling down, there's nothing that comforts me more than obviously some nice warm tea or some kind of soothing drink, and then also a book that I know I'm going to want to just like crawl into and think of it as like a metaphorical blanket. I don't know, does that make sense? Anyway, that is my roundabout tangential way of introducing the point of today's video, which is talking all about comforting reads. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what I would consider comforting reads and then give you guys some examples. This is more just a discussion. So before I dive in, as usual, I do want to let you guys know I'd love to hear what books you consider comfort reads, because I'm always looking for more just to put on my rainy day shelf, so to speak. And so that way, when we have another freaking rainy day, I don't have to read the same set of books for like the 100th time. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So what is a comfort read? I know for everyone it's probably going to be different, but for what I consider comfort reads, one of the first things that comes to mind are rereads. And if you've been around this channel for a while, you know that I don't typically reread a lot of books. I have a very specific criteria, and I feel like having a comfort read falls under the category of rereads. So perfect example of those are Harry Potter. I could read, more specifically, the first one and the third one over and over. In fact, I totally have. It's probably nothing original because every Harry Potter lover or almost every bookworm is always going to talk about how Harry Potter is a go-to, and there's a reason for that. You know, the idea of Hogwarts, this place and these characters that you feel like you are a part of, it's such a welcoming environment, and so naturally when I want to be comforted, there's nothing better than like going back to Hogwarts or going back to the Wizarding World. And so it's for that reason why the Harry Potter books, again, the first one and the third one more specifically, are my favorites, are books that I would consider comfort reads. Now, also another example of rereads I would say is Twilight. I can't even lie. More specifically, the first book is my personal favorite, but I'm not sure if I have discussed on this channel before, but I actually really enjoyed Twilight when I first read it, and because of that, the memories that I have associated with the book, that's really what I hold on to. Yes, I already know the book has its flaws and its character shortcomings and all of those, but when I read it, I am taken back to the place and the feeling that I first got when I read it for the first time. And so luckily, I'm able to overlook all of its flaws, because when I reread it, all I can think of are the warm and fuzzies that I got the first time. And when I first read Twilight years ago, I was in like this huge reading slump and this weird depth of despair. Lots of shit was going on essentially, and Twilight helped bring me out of that. So when I need to be comforted, that's one of the books that I go to. So yeah, I'm not gonna be ashamed of that. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Okay, now as far as other books that I would categorize as comforting, I would have to say series that I am familiar with. So not necessarily rereading the same books that I've already read in the series, but just a series in general, because there is something comforting about revisiting the same cast of characters, or maybe the same location or the same premise, obviously depending on what series you're talking about. So for me, perfect example, and I know if you you guys have been around this channel for a while, you'll know what I'm talking about because I mention this series all the time, but it's Donna Andrews' Meg Langslow series. If you're new around here, just a quick recap. The Meg Langslow series is a cozy mystery series. It centers around a woman who's an amateur sleuth, and her name is Meg Langslow. She lives in the town of Caerphilly, which is a town I think in Virginia. But what makes these books so fun and so comforting is that you get this quirky cast of characters because her family plays a huge role in each of the books because she's got a large family, you know, the quintessential quirky grandmother, or I think in this case quirky grandfather, maybe both, I'm not sure, but you get this wide array of characters that you have come to consider part of your own family, because at this point there's about 25 books in the series, I believe. And so that said, I always like to fall back on those when I need a comforting read or something that I know is going to make me feel good. I'm not going to have to think too much about it, you know what I mean? And so for that reason, I would definitely recommend series that you love as comforting reads. So another example of that I would consider part of a series that is definitely comforting to me are my Murder, She Wrote series books, or book adaptations. I don't know how you consider it, script to book. So another series that I would definitely put on my comfort reads list are my Murder, She Wrote series. More specifically, they are book adaptations of the fictionalized TV character. Say that 5 times fast. I'm not sure what technically you call them, but essentially you're using the same Murder, She Wrote characters, and there have been dozens and dozens of books made from them using the Jessica Fletcher character. Anyway, I absolutely adore the series, not only in book format, but obviously the TV show, since that is what I was first acquainted with. And because there are so many of those, and because I have such fond memories of those, that is hands down probably my number one comfort read or comfort series that I flock to, just because every time I read those books, I think of me and my grandmother watching the show together, and Jessica Fletcher has just almost become this grandmother type figure in my head because my own grandmother isn't around. I know it sounds weird, but hey, your girl can imagine solving crimes with Jessica Fletcher. Just let me live my life. So that's a prime example in the cozy mystery genre. Now I do have, on the flip side, a couple of series in the romance genre, and that is Jill Shalvis's Heartbreaker Bay series. You guys have probably heard me recap a couple of the books because I read more of them over the past few months, and so I've mentioned them in my wrap up, but that's another series that I adore and I love going back to, not only because of the location, because it's set in, I believe, a suburb in San Francisco, and not only the characters, because they are also fun loving, but a lot of it has to do with Jill Shalvis's writing in general. I know what I'm gonna get, while at the same time the books feel fresh to me. I know that I'm gonna get a happy ending, which of course when you have a comfort read, that's absolutely something that you need to have. And so I know going into it that it's going to check all those boxes and make me feel all nice and warm and try to forget about the gloomy day. Keep forgetting about my tea. Okay, perfect. Now it's not scorching my tongue. Okay, so let's talk about another comfort read category, and that's just probably the broadest category, which is just feel-good books. Now, obviously that is going to vary from person to person because we all have different tastes, but for me, a feel-good book has to have some kind of happy ending. It has to give me the warm and fuzzies, and depending on the mood that I'm in, that can show itself in a variety of different ways. So certain authors I know write, you know, feel-good books, or certain topics or tropes I know are feel good and comforting. Let me think of an example. Oh, okay. Prime example, Fangirl. That is one of my absolute favorite books of all time by Rainbow Rowell. And while I wouldn't say necessarily Rainbow Rowell's writing is comforting, it could be, but I don't want to make that grand statement only because I haven't read all of her books, but Fangirl is definitely one of those comfort reads for me. It's so sweet, and I can empathize with the characters so much that when I read it, even though there are some bittersweet moments in the book. I know that it crescendos so that I'm left with a happy ending, and it's one of those books as well that is on my short list of rereads because of that, and it's because of that that I've been meaning to read Carry On. I don't know why I haven't read it yet, guys, but that is a whole different issue for a whole different video. But another example of, for me, what would be a feel-good book is Princess Jellyfish. That was actually one of the first books that I talked about in my very first booktube video. It's actually a manga series, and I think there have to be maybe like 7 volumes. I don't know. It's more than one book though, because I've read a few volumes, but that is the quintessential definition of a comfort read, because everything about it is just like this warm hug. I don't even know how to describe it, because you've got the main character Tsukimi, who is just so innocent and so sweet. You've got the actual animation in the manga, the way that it's drawn, that is so well done. It's very pure all around. And the storyline itself is also very wholesome and pure, and it's fun following along with such a naive, I would almost say, character, because it also kind of puts yourself in this not necessarily childlike but more optimistic frame of mind, because our girl Tsukimi is like this new girl moving into the big city, and so you're following along on her adventures. There's nothing graphic or gory or over the top happening in these books, and as much as I can get down with all of those things in books, sometimes I want a comfort read that's just like a little bit more pure, a little bit more PG-13. I don't even know really how to describe it. It's just this huge air of innocence about it. And you know, reading books that have low stake conflicts as opposed to, you know, blood and gore or just more overt violence, sometimes that's what you need, especially when you're looking out the window and it's pouring raining, or you're turning on the news and you're hearing all this bad stuff. Sometimes you want a book that is light as a form of escapism, and for that reason I would definitely recommend not only Princess Jellyfish as a comfort read, but just as a read in general, especially if you are looking for something lighthearted to kind of switch it up from what you are used to reading. Okay, so let me take another sip of my tea, guys. Oh, it's so good. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much it. I mean, of course, there are more comfort reads or books that I would consider comfort reads, but those are some prime examples that are my kind of go-tos. I'm sure there are a lot more that I could pull from, but those are the ones that rank on the top of my list, and those are my kind of go-to categories that I would choose to have as comfort reads. Again, please let me know in the comments what you guys would consider a comfort read, what you guys do when it is pouring raining outside and you're stir crazy, or you're trying to keep from losing your mind or getting depressed or just having a bleak outlook on life. Because again, as much as I love a good rainy day, when you've got literally 10 of them in a row, it really starts to take a toll on your emotions. And I always think of books and reading as escapism, and sometimes you need a very specific kind of book to make sure that you don't fall into that pit of despair thanks to the weather outside, or not even just the weather, but things in general. So let me just back up really quick. When I say comfort reads, that can be for any situation. I mean, obviously it's been very gloomy and dreary here, but you could easily just be going through some things in life. You could be having a hard time at work, and you just really need a book to help keep you sane and escape from the harshness that you're currently having in your life. So that said, I'm dying to know what you guys have as your comfort reads, because I think that it would be helpful not only for me to give you guys examples, but if you share with me, maybe other people can see your recommendations in the comments, and you never know what might help someone. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you did, and happy reading. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!